There's a good chance that you've seen this specific mistake in Theory of Everything 2, where a decorative block is misaligned a little bit. There are other fairly obvious mistakes you might have noticed yourself, but have you ever looked deeper? You might think that visual mistakes like these are uncommon, but when you look closer, you can find a lot of mistakes in every single level. I got curious and decided to look for every visual mistake in the official RobTop levels. I hope you'll enjoy. Now, before starting to point out each and every single visual mistake in the official levels with an asterisk, let's quickly go over some ground rules. What differentiates visual mistakes from choices? Well, in Stereo Madness we can see a lack of corner pieces in many places. This is not a mistake, because the tileset lacked separated corner pieces. So for the early levels, this is not a mistake. Once the corner pieces were added in update 1.8, I will start considering missing corner pieces as mistakes. Any similar situations where something looks visually wrong but seems to be clearly a choice due to limited editor features, I will dismiss. What about clear inconsistencies? In Stereo Madness, these black dead spikes are not placed on the blocks in the beginning of the level, but later on RobTop just forgot to do the same and added them under everything. For this video, I will count these as mistakes. One type of inconsistency being one mistake. I will also only count mistakes that you can see while playing the level on the intended path. This means the main path to beat the level, as well as any mistake you could make during it, like missing an orb or jumping at the wrong time. A random block flying above the level I will not count unless there is a way to see it this way. I will go over the first levels quickly because there's not much in them, but the later levels have a lot of interesting mistakes, so keep watching until the end. Now, on to ruining every level for you, free of charge. For Stereo Madness, other than the aforementioned inconsistency, you can see the top of this big structure before the first ship section at 26% if you jump for too long. There's also one extra black death ground floor spike thingamabob at 85% before the last section. You can see it if you look for it, but it's much more visible in the editor because you can see the bottom. That's 3 mistakes, and here's a list I'll be showing here and there, showing the mistakes of each level. In Back on Track, you can see the top as you exit the first ship part at 66%, and that's it. Polargeist, and yes, I'm pronouncing it with a soft G, is a different story though. At 54%, we can see this black thing overlapping with the block, which is clearly just a little oopsie. Just a bit later, we have these chains under platforms, and all 3 of them overlap with them. We also have 2 spots where a black spiked death floor, what do you even call these? Like, is there a good name for them? I generally don't know. Anyway, they are placed on a block at 76 and 98%. This level also has the same inconsistency with the black stuff sometimes overlapping blocks and sometimes not. Dryout is completely clean. Rob even added an extra row of blocks here after the ship so you don't see it cut out. Good job, Rob. I looked for a long time but I couldn't find anything, so let me know in the comments. Grab that. I found this decoration going into the block here. Add one to the list. Base after base has the same inconsistency with black stuff being under some blocks but no others. This one in the beginning overlaps with the structure and a bit later there's one missing. In the black section at 37% there's another missing black thing, but you can't actually see it in game, so I won't count it as a mistake. Way later in the level you can see the top of this block when you exit the last ship, and right after you can see the black stuff just end abruptly. Cant Let Go has a black thing on top of this in the beginning, and the very last block is moved a little to the right. There's also this spike before the last jumps that's partly in the air, but I do think that's an intentional choice to make the jump a little easier, so I won't count it. In this part of Jumper, the vertical block is part of the structure, but the second vertical block is separated. There are also an uncentered pulsing rod and portal at 62%. Near the end, this black thing goes over the block, and also you can see the top here, 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 and here, for a total of 8 mistakes. A new record. In Time Machine there's a black thing on top here, one block misaligned right after, and one extra block in the transition at 57%. Other than that, the end completely lacks corner pieces, which would add 46 mistakes, but I'll count it as one inconsistency instead. Cycles has an extra black thing in the beginning, like Stereo Madness, and also there's a missing corner piece right next to it. A bit later there's this monstrosity with black stuff going halfway into the structure and a missing corner piece again. Before the pole part at 34%, we have another black thing in a block. At 71%, you can see the top, and at 85%, we finally have a spike in a block instead of black thing. Yippee! xStep continues mostly with missing corner pieces in the beginning. Right next to it, you might think that's a mistake too, because it doesn't follow the outline, but you'd be incorrect. There's actually no block that fits here, and just the corner piece by itself didn't exist yet. There was no way to fix it, so I won't count it. Moving on, at 22%, RobTop forgot to add a corner piece, but then remembered, but also forgot to remove the original block. Right underneath, we also have these three squiggly black things moved down a bit. Right at the drop, there's a missing black thing at the top. In the ship part, you might also think these chains are clearly mistakenly inside the blocks, but that is not the case. At the time, you weren't able to place any objects under the ground, so this was the lowest you could place them. There is this black thing out of place though. At 58%, this black thing is doubled, but unlike the spike version, this one doesn't have any variance, so you can't actually see that in game. And to top it all off, we have an inconsistency because of an update to xStep. There were no fully black blocks when it was made, but 18% was updated to fix seeing the top of the screen. The other parts still use the old blocks though, leaving an inconsistency behind. Clutterfunk is pretty clean. We have a missing corner piece in the beginning, a spike slightly hanging off of a block, a corner piece flipped, and a block not aligned with the gap from the black stuff. Other than that, RobTop seems to have changed his mind on how to decorate structures like this. Before, he would use no corner piece for this, but in this level he chose to use a block with one corner piece. But of course he didn't remember to do it everywhere. Somewhere in the mini section, he started using a corner piece, adding one more mistake to Clutterfunk. Theory of Everything has a very interesting visual mistake that you're not gonna predict. Go ahead, make your prediction in the comments. Alright, so, you might not even know this, but if you go the wrong route in the pick a path parts, the background actually changes color to red. In the first one, you can barely manage to skip those touch-triggered color changes. After this part, you can also do the top once again. RobTop did a better job with fixing the structures floating in the air, but there are still some that fell through the cracks. For example, at 57%, you can see both the top and the bottom. And right before that, Rob did add extra blocks to hide the floating objects. It was right there, just a little bit more, and he could have fixed this. There's also an inconsistency in the same part with some blocks having the black stuff go over the blocks and some not. At 81%, you can see a couple black things at the top vanish into dust, and finally for the last part, you can see both the bottom and the top in the transition. Electroman Adventures has an uncentered saw in the beginning, and this whole saw structure seems to be copied over to the right, causing another mistake. In the first ship section, there's wavy decoration behind this block, and right after there are some corner pieces missing, except I'm quite certain that's a choice to make the coin a little easier to get, so I'm not counting them. At 39%, there's a missing black thing. In the next structure, Rob used the wrong block variant accidentally. At 58%, this black thing is moved up a little. By the way, can someone count how many times I have and will say black thing in this video? Because I think it's gonna be a lot. Anyway, near the end there's a full spike inside this saw, and right next to it, the saw is uncentered. And in the ball bar there's a block just halfway off the grid. That's 9 mistakes and a new record. In the very beginning of Clubstep, this decoration is very slightly misaligned. Before the first ship, we have 2 floor stuff moved up here and to the left here. At 38%, this corner piece is rotated 90 degrees. I'm not sure if I should count this missing black thing here, but I will count it because to me it feels like it should be there. You can see the bottom here, and then another unsure mistake, although less so, is this block here not connecting. This one I will also count as a mistake. You can also see the top in the same section right here, and for the last mistake on Clubstep, we have another top visible in the very last transition. Alright, now on to the last level before the age of missing corner pieces, Electrodynamix. In the very beginning, we have a pretty famous missing black piece. Then a little bit later, Rob forgot to add 4 spikes here. After that, it's all good until 46%, where you can barely see the top if you fail the jump. Same thing for 56% if you miss the orb, and right after on the coin route, this piece is missing the line on the other side. which I do believe is a mistake. At 71%, there's no spikes or black thing on this, which I do believe is also a mistake. Near the end of the level, we have a random small block pretty well hidden inside the source, and a missing wavy decoration above it. In the structure below them, there's an entire row of extra blocks and black stuff moved down for some reason. And finally, you can see these objects misaligned if you go for the last coin. That's 11 mistakes. And now, finally, we get into the juicy stuff. I know I said I'd go over the early levels quickly, but I don't think it worked too well. Hexagon Force introduces corner pieces that are separate from the main block, which means that any missing corner piece is a mistake from now on. And because this is the first level that uses them, there are probably a lot of missing corner pieces. Grab your drinks and let's get cracking. In the beginning, this saw decoration isn't centered. The very first missing corner piece is at 15%, and that's not a good sign. Surprisingly though, the next mistake is at 40% already, and it's not even a missing corner piece. So maybe we'll be fine. These structures don't have the inner lines on the top and bottom, and we also have the wrong corner pieces on this structure at the top and bottom. On top of that, at the bottom, one of those slopes is also moved slightly down. A bit later in the same section, the bottom half of these chains is moved a little to the left, and also the bottom wavy stuff is moved up a little. We also have some extra corner pieces on the last structure here. In the next section, we have a missing corner piece early on and at the end. We also have multiple missing connector lines at the end. Some of the connector lines are misaligned, but that seems to me to be clearly intentional for gameplay purposes. In this UFO section, we only have one mistake. That being these black things going over this structure. In the next dual part, there's a wrong piece inside this structure and an uncentered decoration for this saw at the bottom. Other than that, we can see the top here and lots of missing corner pieces at the end of it. Now, onto the second last part. The very first structure already lacks every corner piece. There's an extra chain object in these two structures, probably due to just copying the whole thing. We have another missing corner piece in this structure and this structure after it. On the ladder, we also have 3 of these decorative blocks not connecting properly. And the block after that has both a missing and an extra corner piece. How'd that happen? You can see the bottom in the next part's transition if you missed the jump pad. Here, Rob decided to use slope corners instead of normal corner pieces. And for the last section, we have an extra black thing here, a decoration not connecting, and not a single corner piece to be seen. That's 32 mistakes, getting us to over 100 total now. That wraps up Hexagon Force. Let's see if blast processing is as bad. In the first part, this face is missing a piece at the bottom, and right next to it, the 3D line is the wrong way. The inconsistency with the black stuff sometimes going over the block is making a grand return here too. The next face has a misshaped beard, and we also have another inconsistency with the structure not having these decorations on the side. The next 2 parts are completely clean though, and it's only until the very beginning of the ball part where more mistakes can be seen, and I mean very beginning. At the top here, the black thing is missing, which I wouldn't say is a mistake by itself, but considering that there's one at the bottom connecting the structures, I do think it's a mistake. There's also an inconsistency with the decoration on the sides of the bottom blocks. The latter blocks have these decorations on the side, but the first 2 don't. I think the first one is on purpose due to too much going on here, but the second one is definitely a mistake. In the wave part, this chain is not connected to the middle structure like the other ones. There's also a random corner piece here and missing corner pieces here and here. After that, it's clean until 68%, where the 3D line is slightly too low. In the next part, we have lots of corner pieces missing in these 5 spots. Interestingly, this dot is the wrong color, there's a black thing over this structure, and the whole structure is moved a little up, leaving a gap here. Finally, for the last part, we have a misaligned chain piece here and missing corner pieces above it, and 2 extra pieces here and here. We can tell RobTop copied the left side and mirrored it because of this. That's 20 mistakes. Theory of Everything 2 starts off with an uncentered saw decoration here and an inconsistency. These decorations on the sides here go into the block at the bottom in this block, but after that they go into the ground instead. You can also see the top if you miss an orb in the beginning. After that, this part is clean until the transition. These chains here are inside the 3D lines, and at the bottom, chains are slightly off center. This decoration also is the wrong player color. On this top structure, this connector is misaligned because RobTop messed up by moving the whole structure down a bit, except the slope. Ship section is clean, but the UFO after is a mess. First off, there's a random line here, and this corner piece is in the wrong place. There's also a mistake in the alternating player color deco here. In the transition into the ball, we can see the bottom. The black stuff is once again inconsistent with whether it goes over the blocks or not. There's a missing corner piece in the transition to the UFO part and a bit into it as well. We also have another mistake with the alternating player colors here. The next section is clean apart from this object being the wrong color. Now we get to the ship part, which has probably the most famous visual mistake in any RobTop level. This misaligned decoration. But did you know that there's an entire decoration missing next to it here? Yeah, it's been there the whole time. Anyway, you can also see the top in the transition and here if you miss this blue orb. There's also this monstrosity, which is fine except for the black stuff going into the block. It did not need to do that. In this part, the chains are placed on the block instead of the 3D line, adding an inconsistency to the count. This decoration goes into the block and so does this one above it. Now onto the wave part, which you can see wide open when you jump all the way top. RobTop just forgot corner pieces in this part, here, here, here and here. Maybe those corner pieces went on a hike to the next wave part because we got extra pieces here and here. At 68%, there's one wrong block in the background for some reason. In the next part, all of these connectors don't connect to the ground. This beam has a small line in it, and after that we go to 86%, where we have more connectors not connecting to the ground. You can also just very slightly see the top here missing. At the end of this UFO part, these connectors go inside these blocks, and we can also see the top if we miss the blue orb. There's also an extra connector next to it, and there's stuff missing at the bottom. That's 39 mistakes, which is a new record. Geometrical Dominator starts off strong with the first mistake being at 15%. Rob copied the 3D from a previous block here, so in game they moved down a little bit. You can see the bottom if you go the coin route the wrong way, like this, and you can also jump here to see the top of the next part as well as the coin area. Now for the ship part. You will never look at it the same way after what I'm going to tell you. I'll start off with a minor mistake though. Rob used the wrong 3D line here, causing a little visual mistake on every single top structure. They also don't have the diagonal line, and this structure here misses one entire 3D line. This one also misses one at the bottom. Oh, and also this one doesn't have any 3D lines. There's a misaligned glow here and a missing corner piece here. Now, for the big reveal. If you didn't notice it yet, the lines on the sides here have a glow on some places and no glow in other places. This is because Rob accidentally used some 3D lines and some block outlines, and in the editor you don't see the glow in the block outlines. You could go inside these structures, but sadly all the places that lack a hitbox are barely out of reach. Let's move on to the next part. There's a weirdly placed glow here that I initially thought was a mistake, but as I tried to fiddle around with it, I realized that it was probably placed like this on purpose. There's a missing corner piece here and another weird glow here. This one I will count as a mistake though, because you could easily just make the glow go on top of the block on the right to make it look cleaner. In the next part, there are 4 little gaps at the bottom you can see if you fall down, and at 33%, this object goes over the structure. In the rainbow part, the glow is slightly to the left, making a little gap on the right. Same for the other pool. Later on the rainbow part, this grass piece is floating a little. Next, at 55%, we start seeing a really weird phenomenon. This white moving black thing. Why is it white? Just why? Remember that, because we will see more of it in just a second. There's a glow going over the black stuff here, and also in the transition, both at the top and the bottom. In the next part, we have this white line going over the blocks here. Now, back to the white stuff. It's just everywhere in this section. When I first saw this, I was like, is it a choice? It can be, right? And after thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it is just something Rob overlooked, because there's no way it's on purpose. It just doesn't make any sense. Alright, that's it. Let's move on to the memory part. It's actually clean apart from the very end, where this part is a little too high, causing this glow to overlap. And now we go all the way to 94% for the last mistake. This 3D is missing a very small line here. That's it for Geometrical Dominator. That's 23 mistakes. Now for Deadlocked. In the Beninging, this platform has the wrong outline color. Looking at the other platforms, you can see the first 2 are red And after this platform, they're all cyan, making the platform color inconsistent. I'm pretty sure the platforms were supposed to be red, while blocks in the ground would be cyan, but they got mixed up. In the first section, we also have a missing piece here and a misaligned piece here. No other mistakes until after the next part. This glow here should go under the black thing like the rest. Looking at this part, I thought there was an inconsistency again with the black stuff going over blocks, but after playing the level, I realized it's on purpose. The black stuff goes over if the pillar goes all the way off screen. However, here you can clearly see the top, which is definitely a mistake. In the next part, this wavy deco goes over this structure a little, which could easily be fixed by changing its layering. In the ball part at 36%, there is a gap between the line and the black stuff here. There's another gap a bit later and also a misaligned piece right next to it. In the next part, you can see the bottom for a change. There's also an inconsistency in this part with the spiky decoration being above the toxic water in some pools and not in others. Another very tiny inconsistency is at the end of this part. The top bricks in this structure don't alternate between a long and a short brick. Instead, they're all just short bricks. At 61%, you can barely see a tiny gap in this structure. You kinda have to turn off progress bar in order to see it well. Next up, in this wave part, we have a couple interesting things to point out. First, we have a clear misalignment here, but I do think that's on purpose because the tileset isn't advanced enough to handle different slopes combining. Similarly, a bit later, Rob decided to add a block on top of these slopes to hide the overlap due to a lack of right objects. I won't count this since I think they're done on purpose. The black stuff going over the blocks here though, I do consider a mistake. You could easily just put it behind them. There's another laying issue in the zip section with the outlines of these blocks going over the black stuff here. And then we go all the way to the end for the last mistake. RobTop accidentally made one of these 1.1x scale instead of 1x, which means that for this entire part they're messed up and going over blocks a little bit. Time for Fingerdash. We start off with a new variation of the oldest inconsistency. Some of the black stuff here go over the blocks a little bit, but only in some places. In other places, it's just a good old black stuff over the blocks. Another recurring mistake in this part is the glow going over the 3D line. You can see it very clearly here, but there are little pieces visible throughout the part. You can see the top here, and right after Rob used the wrong side objects here. You can also see the top near the end of this part by missing an orb here and here. Interestingly, there's an unused lantern looking deco up here that was left there. Next two parts only have one little inconsistency. The spider part, all of the structures are one, except here where they're separated. The blocks don't match in this part, but they're moved a little bit for gameplay purposes, so they can't match. At 63%, there's a little gap here because Rob moved the block underground. Accidentally, I would guess. Okay, on to the wave part. There are a lot of corner pieces missing here, and these curves Rob made with the black stuff also caused a lot of little visual mistakes, mostly in the form of little gaps. I will count all of the corners missing and all of the little gaps as one mistake each. Other than that, there's this black thing that's quite misaligned. Now onto the spider, which is actually the last part to have a mistake in Fingerdash. There are multiple little gaps between the rocks where you can barely see the background. There's also a little gap in the 3D here. Finally, there's a little layering problem with this glow here and this rock after it with the glow going partway over it. Only 15 mistakes. The amount of mistakes seems to be going down now, so maybe RobTop got better at handling the new era of decoration. Well, let's find out by checking Dash and then the tower levels. Let's do this. In the beginning, these chains go over the spikes on one wall but not the other. But in the other gap, they go over both spikes. This could be an intentional choice, but I'll count it as a mistake. All of these structures above the player have a little line in the glow, which you could fix by simply warping the glow properly, instead of using multiple glow objects. The lava has two glows, and both have inconsistency with not going all the way behind a block. You can see the little gap it leaves in many places, like here. On top of that, one of the glows is overlapped here. This lava object can actually be two different variants. With this variant, you can actually see the bottom of this animated object. In the beginning of the swing part, there's a bit of glow missing here. After that, at 26%, you can see a white square at the top when the camera rotates. In the second swing part, the layering on this little fella is messed up, with the line going under it, and this line is also not connected to the rest of them. You can also see the top of the previous part if you just go up as the swing. After that, we go all the way to 69%. In this ship section, the bubbles in the toxic waste clip into it a little bit. After this part, you can see the bottom of the bubbles on the surface of the toxic waste. You can also see the bottom is a different color than the glow, here for example. I don't know how well you can see it in the video, but it's different, trust me. And just before the last part, you can miss the jump and see the side here. The glow is also not connected to the structure. In the last section, you can actually jump over the blocks, but they still move down as if you had jumped on them. You could say it's not really a visual mistake, but I will count it. That's 16 mistakes. That's all of the classic levels, and our grand total is 249 visual mistakes. We can now officially say that Theory of Everything 2 is the worst official level, and make a lot of people mad probably. Now for a victory lap. Let's check out the platformer levels too. They're much shorter, so they will have much fewer mistakes. The tower has lots of tiny gaps at the top. In the second half, you can't really see them without turning off preview mode in the editor, but they are there. One of the lasers from this thing is a little messed up. On the other side, this block goes over the wall slightly. In the beginning of the sewers, you can see through one little pixel inside this structure here. These boxes get squished a little when you jump on them, but you can avoid the squishing if you land on the corner of this crate. A bit later, you come across these stomping hazards, and if you look closely, the glow on them is quite messed up and don't even follow the shape of the hazards. There's one final mistake in this structure where you can see the background like in the beginning. Next up, the cellar. I went through it many times but couldn't find any mistakes until I really started to look for them, and I did manage to find one. If you time your jump just right with the bomb you place down, you can actually get enough height to see the top. It's an obscure mistake, but it does follow my rules, so I will count it. And now we have finally arrived to the very last level, the Secret Hollow. This one is easily the longest of all the platformer levels, so we should be able to find some mistakes in it, right? In the first part, the top part of the ground is cut off on the spike pits, which by itself wouldn't be a problem, but here it should follow the same rules, and it doesn't. That's one mistake. Also, it would look better if they didn't just cut off, but it does seem to be a choice to cut them. A little later, the line on the side of the spike pit is covered by the spike, and it happens on the next one too. After that, the next mistake is when you become a ball, you can go behind these crates because there's no hitbox on them. Next, a few mistakes of the Cursed Thorn boss. The HP bar has two little gaps in it, and after beating it, you will open a bridge to finish the level. The hitbox appears before the visuals do, which means you can walk in air and do stuff like this for the cutscene. If you look closer into the bridge, you'll see tiny gaps here. And there we go. That concludes this video. Remember not to take this too seriously because they're just chill little mistakes. Thank you so much for watching this far. We're nearly at 50,000 subscribers, so consider subscribing to know whenever I upload more videos like this. If you have any ideas for what I could do for the milestone, let me know. I'm thinking I could try to finish Strataverse Trials quickly to release it as a 50k sub special, but maybe that would be lame. I would also like to thank my channel members Metagray, Not Marco, and Pyro Burnham. I don't upload often, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. Anyway, that's going to be it for the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.